Hey internet friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lindsay, LiJo. Hi, how are you? Nice to have you here. So today we're going to be talking about what some call the NI-FI loop. What is it? What's the point of it? And why it may cause some symptoms of depression in some cases as it relates to your INTJ. So let's get right into it. If you'd like to book time with me talking about this kind of stuff, typology in general, my link for Snug is down below. So here we go. So I've had lots of video requests for this NI-FI loop thing. I've never looked into it. It seems to be much more of a trendy type topic in the typology community. This week, I was processing some things, and as I was processing them and kind of living out some of this experience, I was like, you know what? I think this is what, or at least one instance of what people may be talking about when they're referring to this NI-FI loop. We're going to be talking about emotions today, in case you're uncomfortable with that. I mean, not that many, but. All right, so as it relates to emotions, I'm generally very middle of the road, very even keeled. There's not much that I am overly happy about or really sad about. It's the emotional spectrum I can think of at the moment. But generally, I'm just very content, very middle of the road. So I did a video in the past called The Worst Thing About Our Type, in which I talk about how as INTJs, one thing that we'll do is we'll get stuck in this rerunning of a singular stimulation within our heads as it relates to some kind of future circumstance. It's very in one channel, this particular kind of moment, right? We're not running lots of simulations like NE will, we're kind of honing in on one. So how does this play into the NI-FI loop? If NI were to be the recurring simulation rerun of a future circumstance, and FI were to be an inner emotion as it relates to that future circumstance, we have to go through and experience that emotion. If we allow ourselves to run the simulation, we have to go through and experience that emotion over and over and over and over again. Now, this doesn't happen particularly often because TE is usually kind of slamming down the gavel and not letting the simulation run between NI and FI consistently. And if your simulation is running on something that's really important to you, something that you really want to do in the future, that will make you happy, that will kind of produce something that is of high positive internal value to you, running that simulation really isn't always a bad thing at all. Usually if I'm running a simulation, because I know that it's highly likely that it actually will occur, most of the time it actually does occur, and it occurs very accurately in terms of the way that I've run it. And because of that, I'm prepared for it, right? It's all great. However, that means that I know that I really can trust that NI. Obviously, it's a savior, that's why it happens, but it is accurate. And the thing is when it relates to your FI, and when the FI is something that is very sad, very, I don't have a lot of words to describe it, but let's say it's a very sad case of a future happening, no matter what that is for you, you're rerunning this sad, deeply sad FI place on simulation over and over and over again. So whereas someone may experience a sad moment one or two times, a handful of times, if we're in simulation land, NI-FI land, and it's related to something sad or disheartening, right? That's kind of the instance I'm talking about it here, just this one. It's not always the NI-FI loop is coming out this way, but this is how I'm talking about it in this circumstance. We will have to experience that sad situation, sometimes hundreds and hundreds of times, over and over and over again. So if you're dealing with an INTJ that seems sad or depressed in some way, or if you're an INTJ who is feeling in that place as well, what it comes down to is the simulation. It's coming down to the fact that you're having to relive this future circumstance over and over and over again. And sometimes it can be days before it starts to resolve, or sometimes you may have to take it in sprints and say, I'm going to process this in my NI-FI loop. We also under P call this sleep processing for the INTJ that is NI and FI. But I will process this for a period of time, and then I'm gonna have to take a break and come back to it. But this is the light at the end of the tunnel. Every time you go through this processing, right? As you go through it, it will be a few minutes less each day. If you're kind of, looping for, let's say, like an hour, the next day it's gonna probably be like 58 minutes. And then the next day, it might be shorter than that. In a lot of ways, it can be hard for others to relate to you in this space because you are sad, right, in this circumstance, about something that hasn't happened yet. And in a lot of other people's perspectives, they'll be like, that may or may not happen that way. Who knows? What's the big deal? Yeah, it could. But for you, you're seeing how it will play out and you're having to relive it. So all the rest of the world can be like is, okay, they're emotional about something that hasn't happened. But in our NI airplane, it's very real in terms of the simulation to us. And, we just have to process it until we get through to the other side. So that is today's video on my perspective of the NI-FI loop as it relates to INTJs, why it can show itself as kind of a chronic sadness for a period of time, a level of depression, because we're having to relive something in such a real way within our own selves over a period of time, over and over and over again. So I hope this video brings a little insight. I will talk to you guys in my next video. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Book time with me on Snug if you want to talk. And till then.